Let's get ready to rumble! I'm kidding. Hello, friends, and welcome to another Nostalgia Talk bonus. I'm James, and for the first time ever on Nostalgia Talk bonus, I am very, very happy to have with me some guests coming on. So this is really incredible for me, and not just one, but two of the best Muppet fans out there, the runners behind the Muppet fan site ToughPigs, my very favorite Muppet fan blog. It's where I get all my news. And I'm very happy to welcome them to Nostalgia Talk. First of all, Joe Hennes.
Hello, that's my name.
And Ryan Rowe.
And that is my name. Hi.
Great to see you
I'm
guys.
still getting ready to rumble.
I wasn't prepared to fight. Like, is that what's happening? I got to stretch. I'm gonna do a little bit of this, just in case.
I was being facetious. Don't worry.
Oh, thank goodness.
Welcome, you guys. How's it going?
All right.
Yeah, same. You know, we're like all in quarantine, so everything's terrible. But aside from that, things are going great.
And we can watch the Muppet Show on Disney Plus in quarantine now.
I know. Isn't that lovely?
Well, that's exactly why I brought you guys here. For any of the listeners who are not aware, unless you know me personally, the Muppet Show is now streaming on Disney Plus. All 5 seasons of the Muppet Show, with a couple of edits, of course. And there's so many other content now streaming on Disney Plus too. My father and I were looking at it. MASH, Blossom, Dead Poet Society, a movie called Drive Me Crazy, which I've never seen before but want to. Just so many great content. But right now I'm starting with the Muppet Show. Sorry,
you have MASH on your Disney Plus in Canada?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I don't think ours does it?
I didn't think so either. I was about to say, like, I'm going to look it up. I would love to watch MASH.
Well,
once I'm done with the Muppet Show, I'll watch MASH.
Well, there's this thing called Disney Plus Star, and they've put a bunch of adult content on there.
So yeah, so we don't get that in the U.S. I was just reading. I didn't know that the things you just mentioned were on there, but all these Star programs are now being moved over to Disney Plus in non-American markets.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Maybe we'll get them someday, but yeah, right now it's you're the lucky one.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, us Canadians.
Well, first you get good health care. Universal health care, and then you get MASH on Disney Plus.
Those are the two necessities for life.
And Blossom. I'm looking forward to that one.
And Blossom, she wears so many great hats. You're gonna hear Joe say "whoa." It's great. You don't get any of those references, do you? Have you watched Blossom?
A little bit here and there. I once got to meet Jenna Von Oey, who played Six in Blossom. We met at the D23 Expo, and it was when the Muppets ABC show was brand new, and I got to see Dave Goelz and Eric Jacobson, Steve Whitmire. Peter Linz and I actually met then. And he was walking right by my family. I looked at my mom, and I've told this story on the podcast before, but I looked at my mom and I was like, "Mom, that's Peter Linz. He's one of the Muppet guys." And my mom says, "How do you know that?"
Who doesn't know that? Come on.
But what I want to know is, I want to know more about Jenna Von Oey. What is she doing? Where has she been? Well, I like Jenna Von Oey.
Well, she has some books out at the moment.
Well, that's good to know.
I saw her once on Celebrity Wife Swap.
Okay.
Who did she swap with?
Oh God, I don't remember.
We'll have to look that up later.
Yeah, she was nice, and actually that morning, because she was at a Goofy movie panel. Have you guys seen the Goofy movie?
Oh,
I saw it when it came out in theaters, but not since then.
Same. I rewatched it on Disney Plus because I had such fond memories of watching it in the theater, like you. It's good. It holds up. It's a fun movie.
Yeah, well, she was the voice of Stacy, and they did a little Goofy movie reunion panel, and Bill Farmer was there, Jason Marsden, Jim Cummings, Rob Paulson. I did not know Jenna Von Oey was going to be there, so I tweeted her that morning, and I said, "It was very nice to see you last night." And next thing you know, she's the second person I met that day.
Great.
And I said to her, "You and I had a little bit of a connection this morning," and she's like, "Oh, you made my day."
Huh.
Awesome. I love that. Love that.
And now, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, what Muppet Show episode was Jenna Von Oey in? I don't remember.
She was never on she was never on the Muppet Show, but that would be a cool little guest.
Yeah, I would have watched it.
Yeah, I guess she doesn't have any Muppet connections.
Not as far as I know.
Sucks.
Not yet. Not yet.
Not yet.
The Jenna Von Oey Renaissance is coming, and the Muppets are gonna pounce. Just you wait. I'm calling it.
The Von Oey Renaissance.
I love these guys. Anyway, so let's get down to business, which is a very nostalgic song. I mean, the show's called Nostalgia Talk for a reason. So, what episode of the Muppet Show did you guys start with on Disney Plus?
I watched the Gene Kelly episode the other day. That was the first one I watched, which is great. I mean, I've seen it many times. It's on the old Time Life series, so we've watched it that way, even though it's a season 5 episode. And so my wife is just crazy about Gene Kelly. He's her favorite movie star of all time, and yeah, it holds up. It's one of the best episodes of the Muppet Show, in my opinion.
That made our recent top 10 list on the website.
That's right.
Oh, yeah. I go to your site every day. So.
Thanks.
Thank you. So do I.
Well, you guys run it. Ryan, what was the first one you saw?
So I have barely watched any Muppet Show on Disney Plus, I must confess, but I did watch Gilda Radner yesterday because I had an idea for a funny meme to post on our social media accounts that involved the Gilda Radner episode. So I have watched that one.
I just watched that one this morning for the first time in a while, and my mom just looked over. She's like, "Oh, Gilda Radner was amazing." So I hadn't seen that episode in a while, but what I liked about it, Gilda Radner is such an incredible performer, and especially in that, she really shows it off. Doesn't matter what she was doing, being funny, especially in the opening with Scooter, singing, dancing. You know, because in that particular show, she sang operetta, she sang ragtime dance pop basically at the closing, whilst getting stuck to everything.
Right. And that one also famously has the 7-foot-tall singing carrot, which to me is a great example of the brilliance of the Muppet Show writers, where, you know, a silly comedy show might come up with the idea of, because she comes in and she wants to sing with a 7-foot singing parrot, I think, singing the Pirates of Penzance, but the Parrots of Penzance. And so a less clever comedy show would just have her sing with a parrot, but they went one step further and made it more ridiculous. And, oh, we thought you wanted to sing with a carrot, so that's a giant carrot.
I feel like that
puppet too. Like, I mean, I love the design of the 7-foot tall singing carrot, but like it always weirds me out to think of I don't know who's in there, Peter Friedman or something.
Yeah.
And but the puppet has no arms. So it's just legs and a mouth, which, you know, probably easier to perform that way. You don't have to worry about like a dead arm if you're performing the mouth, like you know, going back and forth like Sweetums. But I do wonder, like, if he did trip and fall, then he's just down. Like, it'd take 3 people to get that carrot up back on his feet. Yeah, you're right.
And then they never used that carrot again, I don't think. So
yeah, what happened to the giant carrot?
He probably was eaten by a 12-foot rabbit.
Right.
There you go. That's the answer. It's the only answer.
I started watching I binge watch a lot of shows on Disney Plus. Like, I grew up in the era of Hannah Montana, That's So Raven, Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. I'm a kid of the late 90s and the 2000s, so I sometimes, for nostalgic purposes, especially because of the pandemic, I've kind of just been binge watching a whole bunch of old Disney shows in order, and so I started right at the start with the Muppet Show with Rita Moreno.
Good.
Yeah, it's interesting. Do we know what order those are in on Disney Plus? Because it's not the production order.
I think it's in airing order.
It's neither, because it's so the Muppet Wiki has a great page where they've listed out every episode, and you can sort it by production order, US debut and the UK debut. This mostly follows, I think, the UK debut, but it's not completely accurate. And we've had a lot of questions from people on social media, including the guys at the Muppet Wiki, of why Disney chose this order specifically for the episodes. We have not yet had a chance to, you know, bring that subject up with Disney in our very few conversations with them, mainly because we've been mostly asking them about the edits, like the missing episodes. As you know, James, there was the Cape Ballard episode was missing at launch, and we thought there was something wrong, and turned out it was just a mistake, not that it was removed for any reason. So we had a lot of questions around that kind of thing. And to me personally, it felt like the episode numbering was not quite as important.
That's
for
not
now.
a priority, yeah.
Yeah, like we'll figure that out at some point. But right now, the big story was with the edits. And
what a stressful first few hours that was, when nobody knew where the Kay Ballard episode was.
It was available here in Canada right away.
And then
You had it in Canada, and then in the UK, you're missing 2 more episodes, and we're not entirely sure why just yet. I don't know. It was also stressful for me personally because we had been told, okay, these 2 episodes, the Chris Langham episode and the Brooke Shields episode will not be there at launch. But we were on embargo not to report on that news until the Muppet Show had launched that morning, we had set everything up and we made sure that the news was out as soon as possible, which was overnight for us. And then in the morning we get up and, great, let's see what people are talking about. And everyone's saying, oh no, there's more edits and there's other episodes missing, and oh no, and it turned into a lot more work for us personally than it should have been. I don't know. I mean, it's fine. It's not like the worst thing to ever happen to anybody.
Well, there are a lot of people working for Disney and Disney Plus, so I wouldn't be surprised if the message about those edits didn't make its way all around the office.
I think you're correct. Yes, Disney is a big place.
Yeah.
Well, today I was watching the Danny Kaye episode, and one of my very favorite. Really? Well, one of my very favorite numbers was in that episode originally, but was cut from Disney Plus.
Which one is cut from that episode? Remind me.
The song "Jogging." 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh yeah.
Making it easy. 1, 2, 3, 4. In my tracksuit. I love that.
I enjoy that song. It's not one of my all-time favorites or anything like that. But what I love about it is, in another episode, there's the dog walk song where Wayne is walking his dog, and they pass each other, which is such a great little reference that you wouldn't get.
The character from the jogging song passes Wayne walking his dog.
Yeah, right. And vice versa.
Right.
So it's a great thing. Like those 2 numbers are hypothetically kind of happening at the same time.
Yeah.
But
they were probably shot on the same day.
It's very possible. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. It's the same backdrop, right?
I'm sure it is. Well, it's the same place, Ryan. They filmed them at the same time.
They're going for the run and the dog walk in the same park or whatever.
Yes. Exactly.
I will say I am very glad that they kept Age of Aquarius in that episode. That as many of the listeners of Nostalgia Talk know, and all my friends and family know, I listen to a lot of retro music, mostly 90s pop, Backstreet Boys, 98 Degrees, Britney Spears.
For you, that's retro.
Sorry.
For us, that's like last year. I remember all that.
Yeah. It's funny, the last guy that I had come on this show was a Canadian voice actor named Lee Toker, and he's like, well, now I'm starting to feel old.
Mm.
Well, I mean, that's the problem you're going to have when you have a show that's all about nostalgia. Everyone defines nostalgia differently.
That's true.
Not just like what we grew up with, but like, I mean, we were talking about having nostalgia for the Muppet Show. Like Ryan and I didn't grow up with the Muppet Show. We were not alive for the majority of that, but we'll have nostalgia for it because it's a show that we enjoyed as kids.
Right, we saw reruns.
Right, like you have nostalgia for stuff from the 90s that you weren't really present for, but we were.
You can still discover the Muppet Show and the movies and everything. Yeah, I always love when somebody talks about their 5-year-old kid just watched the show or the Muppet movie for the first time and loved it.
Yeah.
Both of my parents were in single digits when the Muppet Show was brand new, so yeah. Actually, my dad was. Still is a big fan of a lot of the guests. Like, actually, I had some of the Time Life videos, Best of the Muppet Show. The first ones I ever saw were Elton John, Julie Andrews, and Joe, one you mentioned, Gene Kelly.
All great episodes.
They're all really good. Yeah.
I was so grateful for those Time Life videos. Like for the longest time, the only Muppet Show episode that I owned, or maybe even that were commercially available, there was one VHS that came out that had the Alice Cooper and the Vincent Price episode, like Monster Laughs with the Muppets or something like that.
Yep, that's the one.
Yeah, and that was it. I just watched it over and over and over again because that's all I had. And then the Time Life videos came out. I didn't have a DVD player at the time. I bought all the VHS tapes, and I same thing. Like I watched them constantly, just because it was like a new Muppet thing that I knew I loved because we had some episodes of Muppet Show on Nickelodeon back in the days. I just didn't have any of them recorded. I had no way to revisit them because it's not like the modern day where I just download things or I go on YouTube and watch something.
Everything is harder, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, those Time Life videos were very important to my Muppet fandom.
Nice. Are there any episodes that you haven't seen yet on Disney Plus that you're looking forward to getting to?
I have a handful of episodes, believe it or not, that I have never ever seen.
Me too.
It's only like 4 or 5 of them at this point. I can tell you one of them is Jean-Pierre Rampal. I don't remember the others. It's a short list, but yeah, I am gonna make my way to them eventually. Although then it'll be kind of sad because then I'll have no new episodes to watch.
Yeah, it's the same for me. I have a few season 5 episodes that I've never seen, or if I have seen them, I don't remember seeing them. It's the same as you, Ryan, where like I don't want this ride to end.
Right.
I've always said like the nice thing about being a Muppet fan is we're never gonna hit the bottom. There's always gonna be more stuff that we're uncovering, or more TV episodes that you've never seen, or more interviews you've never gotten to. But Muppet Show has always been like kind of the be all end all pinnacle of Muppet Productions to me. And it's sad to know that the day will come where there will be no new Muppet Show for me to watch. I will say that my plan for the last episode to watch will be oh my God, my brain is not working.
Give us a hint.
Don't Cry Out Loud. What's her name?
Melissa Manchester.
Thank you, Melissa Manchester. Thank you. The Melissa Manchester episode will be the last one I watch because, so James, you probably know since you've been reading ToughPigs all this time, but we've been doing these 40 years later Muppet Show reviews on ToughPigs. We started them 40 years after the first episode had aired in 2016. So this is a 5-year project that we've been working on steadily, and because this has been this was my brainchild, and I wrote the very first review of the series. I've always known that I also want to write the very last review, which is that episode. So I think what I'd like to do is make sure like I've seen everything. I'm familiar with all seasons 4 and 5, to refresh myself, and then I'm going to end with a bang and write that final review.
Did somebody say bang?
There it is.
I did say bang. Sorry.
Kaboom!
I don't remember what happens in the Melissa Manchester episode other than a song she does with Floyd.
Well, don't tell me. No spoilers.
No, I won't tell you what song it is.
I'm wondering if she cries out loud. I don't know. I'll find out.
Most of the episodes that I look forward to watching, sometimes it's hardly ever because of a certain guest, but it's because of a certain skit that's in it.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I mentioned Age of Aquarius in the Danny Kaye show. My very favorite episode is the Madeline Kahn one. And Madeline Kahn, from what I've seen on Sesame Street as well, and of course, one of my favorite films from my childhood is A Bug's Life. I think that was the last film that she did.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Probably, yep. Or close to it,
Yeah. And
so what's funny is Ryan and I were talking about this on the ToughPigs forum last week. I think we were talking about some of our favorite Muppet Show episodes, and Ryan, one of his favorites is Harvey Korman from the first season. And I responded to say, it's funny because that's one of my least favorite episodes because I think that he's not really natural at all with the Muppets. I think he's really stiff and he doesn't want to interact with them and is awkward. And Ryan said, no, it's not about him. It's about the other stuff in the episode. That's the episode with
Right.
Good
There's
Grief
like 4 all-time
Bear.
classics in that. There's Robin halfway down the stairs. There's the Electric Mayhem doing that the dynamite. What is it called?
Don't Blame the Dynamite.
Yeah, I'm gonna light some
I
dynamite.
love
I'm
the
gonna
internet.
explode an atom bomb. Ooh, ooh. Is that the one?
And that's the episode with Good Grief, the Comedian's a Bear, which is like where Fozzie really became a character. So yeah, I think
One of the greatest Muppet Show moments of the whole series.
Right.
Yeah.
I think just because the name of the guest star is the name of the episode, and that's what you see when you talk about the episode, we do maybe tend to overestimate how important the guest star is to each episode. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's just the Muppets. That's great.
My favorite skit in my favorite episode is, which is, as I said, the Madeline Kahn one. It's Floyd doing New York State of Mind.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Because he does it so well. And just, it really sounds like a blues song when Jerry Nelson sang it as Floyd.
Yeah,
That's the kind of number where you hear it, and it's such a shame that they aren't able or weren't able to create like a truly thorough Muppet Show soundtrack, because it's like, yeah, I can record that off my DVD or off YouTube or whatever and listen to it whenever I want. But like I'd love to just get like a really good version of Jerry, really not Floyd, it's Jerry Nelson singing a song like that.
Or an Electric Mayhem album.
Oh man, I would love to have an Electric Mayhem album. We're lucky to have Old Brown Ears is back. The Rolf the
Which
Dog
also has New York State of Mind on it.
That's why I thought of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is great. I mean, to hear Jim Henson sing those tracks is really is also really special. But that one is particularly good. I would love to have like a really crisp sounding audio for stuff like that.
Well, Disney, if you are listening, give us an Electric Mayhem album.
Yes, please. And that's the kind of thing I've seen. I've been reading a lot on social media as people sort of discover and rediscover the Muppet Show in the last few days. And a lot of people, I guess maybe they haven't seen it in years or decades. And there's a lot of realization of like, oh yeah, I remembered, Pigs in Space and the Swedish Chef and all the silly stuff, but there's some really good music on this show.
And some really good zingers in a few of them.
Sorry, what was that?
And some really good zingers in a few of them. That's another thing I really look forward to in some of these, especially with Nancy Walker and Carol Burnett, because one of the best jokes in the Nancy Walker episode is, well, maybe you just think you did. I don't think I know. I don't think you know either.
Right. And Carol Burnett is a good one because it's one of only a handful of episodes where the guest star is having a bad time.
I love my favorite joke in that is that Kermit, I really don't want to hurt your feelings. Please don't misunderstand me, but this is one of the 3 worst shows I've ever seen. Well, what were the other 2? There are no other 2. I was being kind.
Right.
What a gem, Carol Burnett.
Yeah.
Here's your partner. Ah! What is it? Oh, that's animal. Well, I knew it wasn't vegetable or mineral. Could you give me any other clues? That was another one of the first ones I ever saw on those Time Life videos. And Steve Martin was on that video. Gilda Radner was on that one. My dad liked Steve Martin. And I remember watching the not the Carol Burnett one, the Gilda Radner one. And I'm like 6, 7, 8, I think. And I thought she was very pretty. And I continued watching it. And my dad's like, "Do you like Gilda Radner?" And I said, "I think I do." And he's like, "Okay, well, she's passed away, right?" And I was like, "Okay, but I still got a kick out of her." There was actually a documentary that premiered here in Halifax called Love Gilda that I haven't seen yet.
Yeah, I haven't watched that yet, but I've heard good things about it. It's always interesting to me that she was the only member of the original Not Ready for Primetime Players on SNL to guest star.
Well, we all know that how much they hated working with the Muppets at the time.
Right, like Chevy Chase hated them because there were Muppets on the first season of SNL, and they thought they were taking screen time away. But I don't know.
Yeah,
I'd like to think that maybe like.
Well, the writers hated working. The writers hated writing for the Muppets.
Yeah.
On SNL. I mean, we did get Chevy Chase appearing in Follow That Bird.
Oh, that's true.
But yeah, I'm trying to think, and then and Lorraine Newman also was in Follow That Bird.
Oh yeah.
Well, technically, her voice is. She
was Ma Dodo. Yeah.
Yep. And what's her name? From
Jane Curtin.
Jane Curtin. Yeah, she was on Sesame Street.
On Sesame Street, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd. Dan Aykroyd had that sitcom Soul Man, where Big Bird showed up.
Oh, right.
Who else? Bill Murray wasn't in the first season, but Murray's never done anything with the Muppets. Who am I forgetting?
Unless, what about Bob counts? Because that's a Frank Oz film.
It does not count.
Yeah,
but it's not a Muppet production.
It would have been fun to see one more of them at least on the Muppet Show.
Well, especially because like those people, they're all so funny. They're so talented. Like, how great would it have been to see like John Belushi or Bill Murray on the Muppet Show, or even like in the later years?
Yeah,
they're still around. Why can't they do it now? Nothing's stopping them.
Well said.
Yeah, they could have been on Muppets Tonight or something.
Yeah, or something.
Yeah.
What has been your favorite episode that you've watched so far on Disney Plus? Ryan, I know you mentioned that you haven't watched that much of it, but are there any favorites of yours that you have watched?
Oh, like of all episodes of the Muppet Show?
On Disney Plus, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've only watched the one so far.
I admit I need to watch more as well. It's been, I mean, we've been busy, you know. It's like we're reporting on this stuff, and we're writing articles and recording podcasts and all that fun stuff. So it's been hard to be able to do both, you know, in addition to like our jobs and our lives and things like that. So I'm sure if you gave us a couple of weeks, we'll have a whole slew of them to give to you.
Yeah, for sure.
But we've already mentioned a lot of my favorites. The one I always like talking about, because I feel like most people don't, they didn't give the country stars a chance, is I love telling people how much I love the Roy Clark episode.
Yep.
It's so good.
Yeah.
For people who don't know, it's the one where Fozzie sends the crew home, and because the theme is we're going country, so he says, "Yeah, send them to the country," and Kermit tells him, "No, that's the theme. So you have to do the job of the crew." And not only does Fozzie Bear have to do everything, but the theater catches on fire, which is the funniest thing to ever happen in a Muppet Show episode, in my like a backstage plot of a Muppet Show, in my opinion. It's just the best. And Roy Clark is like, he does such a good job.
He reacts to it.
Yeah, the theater's on fire. The theater is on fire. It's really like there's like little moments. I've seen that episode so many times. There's little moments of like what Frank Oz does in that, with like these little hand motions and things like that are just, I can't really describe it. You just need to like really pay attention to Fozzie's performance.
And again, maybe people aren't familiar with Roy Clark unless they watched Hee Haw or whatever. But yeah, he's
that's it. He just did Hee Haw.
Pretty much all he was famous for, I guess.
Wasn't he on
Hee
that
Haw,
for like
Muppet
30
Show.
years?
That's it.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, he's really good in it too. The opening number he does, he plays like 4 instruments, and you see him in 4 corners of the screen. It's very entertaining.
Yeah, Rocky Top is the song.
Yeah.
And but what I appreciated is that like he's playing the banjo, and he's really good at playing the banjo, and he's playing the guitar, he's really good at playing the guitar, and then by the time you get to the last one, he's playing the trumpet. He's just terrible at playing the trumpet. Like they get worse and worse as they go on. And you know, he had a good sense of humor about himself.
I think that was the point of the joke in the talk spot between Roy Clark and Kermit, where it's like, I especially like that trumpet. Oh, I thought you were going to bring that up.
Yeah. It's also like an interesting, I don't know, sequel almost to the Jim Neighbors episode, which is also like a down home guy, and we're talking about living on the farm, and like some of those jokes don't land quite as well in my opinion. It's still a good episode, but it's like, no, we could do it again. We could do it better.
That's an interesting theory.
I never thought.
I don't know. I just came up with it.
Never thought of it that way. When you said sequel to a past episode, I immediately thought of the Nancy Walker one, where Fozzie is in charge of the show because Kermit is out sick with the swine flu. Sorry, Miss Piggy.
Right.
I don't know if they had the swine flu then, did they?
That's what Nancy had said to Piggy.
She's does she say swine flu? I don't know.
Yeah, Kermit has the swine flu. She's like, swine flu? And then Karate chops the phone off the hook, and Nancy says, "I'm sorry, Kermit, it's a bad connection."
Okay.
Right. But there were several, like the Johnny Cash episode is very country heavy. The Dale Evans and Roy Rogers episode is very country heavy. I think that's something that Jim Henson was very interested in, maybe from his growing up in Mississippi.
I also wonder if it was due to like having so many British people working on the show, because it's felt foreign. Like, this is our American show that we're doing, so we're doing American jokes about America.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Ryan, did you just say that it was a novelty thing?
I said it was a novel thing for them.
Okay, yeah. I immediately thought of that joke about that's a novelty from Statler and Waldorf. They got some good zingers too.
What was the joke?
That's what I call a novelty act. I think it was, you liked it? Yeah. Well, that's a novelty or something like that.
So, it's funny. Ryan and I have talked about this many times. Those Statler and Waldorf bits, they're all funny, but there's so many of them that are just Statler and Waldorf saying, well, was that a good thing? No, that was a bad thing. And then they go, do. But when you watch the Muppet Show episodes, there's so much more different types of jokes that they make that they don't really do anymore. Where they're just talking about being old, or they're just referencing the fact that they're still sitting in this theater or whatever it is, or even just like non sequiturs that have nothing to do with what's going on stage. And I wish that the people who are writing for the Muppets would kind of go back and revisit these Statler Waldorf bits to just kind of get them out of that pattern.
Well, it's that
of just
thing
making
where
the same joke over and over again.
When characters have been around for such a long time, it's tempting to just write them doing the same shtick over and over again.
It always makes me wonder if if the jokes, the skits were just selected randomly after certain skits, like the Statler and Waldorf jokes, because sometimes they would just be talking, but it sometimes wouldn't even be talking about the skit. So it always made me wonder, did they just film them and then they were put in at random?
Yeah, there's
that
some
would be my guess. Yeah,
just kind of generic.
Yeah, they probably, it's like, okay, we've got the balcony set up, we've got Jim and Richard ready to go, we've got an hour, let's crank out like 30 of these real quick, and boom 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 boom, get them all done. I mean, that would make more sense than, from a production standpoint, than like, okay, it's like we're done filming the big musical number, let's set up over here at the balcony, shoot 10 seconds of that, set up for the next one. That wouldn't have made nearly as much sense.
I mean, a lot of them are also specific to the number that they just saw. But even then, if they wrote 5 episode scripts in a row, they could then shoot 5 episodes worth of Statler and Waldorf in a row.
Yeah, I mean, at least 2. I mean, this is something I've been thinking about. Because the director just passed away. I want to say Richard Harris. That's not his name.
Peter Harris.
Peter Harris. Thank you. Richard Harris is in the Harry Potter movies. He also passed away, but we're not talking about him today. Yes, Peter Harris just passed away, and how there were really just 2. I mean, there were other directors, but really there were 2 directors who handled the bulk of the Muppet Show. And would have to guess that they figured, okay, for timing purposes, we'll just have you alternate one after the other, and that way we're always, we're writing one while we're filming the other, and then basically just constantly move forward. So if you have multiple episodes in production at the same time, you're able to do things like that. You're able to say, like, okay, between these 2 episodes we've just written, we have 6 Statler Waldorf moments, so let's just do them all at once. I don't know. This is speculation. Yeah.
Sure.
It's interesting. When you see anyone who is ever a guest on the Muppet Show on something else, or if you ever listen to their music, if it's a singer, do you ever think to yourself, oh, I just know them from the Muppet Show?
Oh, yeah.
I talk about this a lot, about how many songs that I know first from the Muppet Show. Some of them are just songs that the Muppets performed, but yeah, a lot of, like, I'm sure I had never heard anything by Melissa Manchester before I saw her Muppet Show episode, and now when I hear a song, it's, somewhere, anywhere in an old movie or something, I'm like, oh yeah, Melissa Manchester from the Muppet Show. So yeah, that definitely happens.
Yeah, it's funny. Lately, we've been watching like a lot of British sitcoms and things like that, and I swear to God, every one of them has a reference to Bruce Forsyth. And I wouldn't know who Bruce Forsyth was born for the Muppet Show, and yet
I don't think his fame quite made it across the pond.
It definitely did. It's not just that; it's the fact that he was so famous in the UK. Like, he really was like I don't know if was he the Johnny Carson, was he the Tom Hanks? I don't know. Like, just like that level of fame, and so much that like he does get referenced or appears in everything British, especially if it's a sitcom. So yeah, there's definitely like a good amount of people who I would only ever be on my radar. I remember visiting Las Vegas and seeing a billboard for Charles Aznavour years ago. And it's like, really? Charles Aznavour? I wouldn't even looked at that board if it weren't for the Muppet Show. I went to see Mum and Sean perform years ago, and I wouldn't have bothered to do that if they hadn't appeared on the Muppet Show.
That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely I could make a list of people who I only care about them for that reason.
Oh yeah, and we've had conversations about like who were the most famous guest stars at the time of the Muppet Show, or who were the least famous at the time of the Muppet Show. And it's actually hard, I think, for us now to quantify some of those, because if you're not alive in 1978, then maybe you don't know exactly how famous Leo Sayer was at the time, or whoever.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, get this. I knew who Leo Sayer was because of, to anyone listening to this, please don't taunt me for this, but the Wiggles, because he did a video with them. I grew up with the Wiggles, and he did
the Wiggles. Ah, that's interesting.
I get No disrespect for the Wiggles.
Yeah, they did a video called "You Make Me Feel Like Dancing," and he was in it doing that song.
That's interesting.
Which he did on the Muppet Show, and did he also do that on the Tonight Show when Kermit hosted or not?
Probably it was his signature song.
Right.
I thought he might have, but I thought he sang the slower song on the Tonight Show.
That's right. He just does the one with Piggy, maybe.
Yeah, because don't quote me. That's just how I remember.
Yeah, I think that's right.
In my brain box.
Okay.
We're gonna get letters from all the Leo Sayer fans out there.
From all the Leo Sayer fan.
Yeah.
Oh.
Now we're gonna get letters.
Roast Ed.
Sorry, Leo.
You took the words.
Is he still alive?
Yes, he is.
He is? Okay, that's good to know. Good for him.
I once saw John Cleese. He came to Halifax 2 years ago, and I went with my dad, his dad, and and for the listeners who haven't seen most of my YouTube videos, ever since I've known how to talk, I have been referring to my grandfather as Grumpy. It's been an ongoing joke for the last almost 22 years. I'm going to be 22 in a couple of weeks. And I've just known him as Grumpy ever since I've known how to talk. So it was my dad, Grumpy, his wife Carolyn, and we went to see John Cleese. And he was funny, but he made it a little bit like a university lecture, pretty much.
Yeah. That doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
Yeah. But cool. I will say he did take some Q&A, and this was at our hometown arena. It's called the Scotiabank Center. It's a place where the Halifax Mooseheads play hockey. It's not as big as like Madison Square Garden or Bell Center in Montreal. And there was like 8,000 people in the Scotiabank Center. And I was so tempted to ask him a question. I was so tempted to ask, what Muppet performer did you feel the most comfortable working with? But then I thought 8,000 people are going to think I'm nuts.
You know,
I don't think so. Yeah. You could have gotten away with that.
I think that's within the bounds of relatively normal, and also it's probably not the kind of question he gets a lot, or any of those guest stars get a lot, where people always ask celebrities the same old questions about their best known movies or their best known songs or whatever. So yeah, I bet they don't get a lot of questions about like, so what was that one thing that you worked with Beaker? What was that like?
Well, I remember a couple of years ago, Ryan and I went to see Frank Oz in conversation with Mark Hamill. And it was great. It was a really terrific experience, but they didn't talk about the Muppet Show at all. I'm not sure they did. I think they only talked about Star Wars.
I know.
Maybe in passing.
So Frank was interviewing Mark Hamill, and I think like maybe there were some of the questions from the audience on the blue cards that maybe Frank shuffled past because maybe he didn't want to talk about the Muppet Show.
I mean, I wrote a question about the Muppet Show that he did not read.
Yeah. Well, I think his thought was like, this is mostly about Mark, so let's focus on Mark and his career and his craft.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's not how I mean, yes, it was mostly focused on Mark, but like I feel like it was billed as like a conversation and not just Frank Oz asks questions.
Right.
I expected a little bit different. It was great.
Yeah, I just realized the sun is just starting to set, so now I have like a film noir, like cool.
It looks fine.
It's funny, and then I have my light for some reason always makes the streak on my face.
I can see your halo.
Love that song.
But I have a quick story about meeting a Muppet Show guest star. I was it was
let's
in
hear
my
it.
office, and I have the Diamond Select Statler Waldorf figures, action figures, which come in like a little balcony box.
Oh, cool!
And
me too.
It's great. I mean, everyone should have it. It's the greatest action figure set. Yeah, everyone should have it. So I have it up above my desk. They look down on me and judge me while I work. And so I'm at the office one day, and someone is giving someone else a tour of the office, and they stop at my desk, and she's saying like, "Oh, I like your toys that you have, and look at these guys. Oh, I love them so much." And I'm going, "Yeah, it's really nice. Like, who doesn't love the Muppets?" And she goes, "I just really liked working with them." And I go, "What do you mean working with them? What are you talking about?" And I'm like studying her face to think like, is she a Muppet performer or a designer, or like I don't understand. And eventually it took me a few minutes because I didn't know what this person looked like in modern times. But I find out it's Tula Clark. And I go, oh, you didn't just work with them. You were a guest star on the Muppet Show. And I'm going, I'm so sorry I didn't recognize you. And I'm sure she didn't care. And so I got to meet her. But at this point, we had been talking for 5 minutes. And I can't be like, hang on, forget that you spent any time with me. Let me take my 5 minutes of your time to ask you questions about the Muppet Show. It was too late. I did not really get a chance to have a real conversation about Muppets.
Did she have to go downtown?
I get that reference.
I remember that story of yours, but I had forgotten the punchline of who it was. So that was
it was Petula, my friend Petula.
I'm glad you mentioned Petula Clark because when I had Chris Surf on the show, he was talking about the word is no being based upon the Cars, and so I told him my mom's father really liked the Cars, and he liked Petula Clark as well. And actually, I'm named after him.
Oh,
You're
cool.
named after Petula Clark?
No, I'm named after my grandfather.
Your name is Grumpy?
That would be my dad's dad.
I'm sorry.
My mom's dad's name is James. I call him Grandpa Jim. He's not with us anymore. He died, I think, about 15 years before I was born. And so when I was born, my mom wanted to name me James after him.
Sure, of course. Although I do like the idea of we want to name him after my father, so this is Grumpy, baby Grumpy.
Well, actually, my full name is James Timothy Michael Nobes, and this is the first time I've ever publicly said that.
And what's your social security number?
I'll fax it to you.
Great.
And so Timothy is actually Grumpy's real name. So therefore, my name really could very well be James Grumpy Michael Nobes. I'll get a lot of friends with a name like that.
I like that.
There's 6 dwarves.
Yes, very much. So are there any favorite characters of yours that were seldom used on the Muppet Show? Because when you think of Muppets, everyone thinks of Kermit, Miss Piggy, Gonzo, Fozzie, Scooter. But there's so many funny characters that just were eventually cut.
Yeah. It's funny. In the Muppet fan community, the most hardcore of the hardcore fans tend to, for some reason, have all chosen, basically almost random, chosen a Muppet that they just decided this is going to be my favorite character, and they're just hardcore Annie Sue stans for the rest of their lives or whatever it is. I don't know if I have that myself. I do appreciate it when I see it and people just talk about how much they just love Mildred. And it's why Mildred? There's no reason not to, but it's not like she has any memorable moments for you to latch onto. But then you see her in the background of something and you go nuts for it. You're like, if there's Mildred, she's in the background. I see you, Mildred, and I love ya.
Yeah, I mean, I like a lot of the infrequently seen characters like Marvin Suggs or just but then I don't think I would want to see more of Marvin Suggs necessarily. I think it's good that they brought him out when they had a really funny idea for him, but otherwise it's just we like to look at the background or when there's a big musical number and there's Beautiful Day Monster or whoever, just one of those kind of random background Muppets. It's always fun to identify them.
Well, believe it or not, my favorite Muppet is one that is hardly ever used at all. I cannot remember the last time he ever spoke. You guys ready to hear who it is?
I'm excited.
It's Nigel.
Oh, I do love Nigel.
Conductor. Yeah, I just love the look of that puppet.
I can tell you a very tiny non-story about Nigel. So Ryan Dillon, the Muppet performer who performs Elmo.
And Don Music and Lefty, just for any of the nerdy listeners like me.
Yep, exactly. So he performed in the Hollywood Bowl Show, the Muppet Hollywood Bowl Show in LA. And mostly just background characters and stuff. And he told me there's a moment where they have a parade of obscure characters or something like that.
It's the parade of forgotten Muppets or something like that.
Yeah, I saw that. Somebody posted that on YouTube.
Yeah, it's great. If it's available out there, everyone should go watch it because it's super fun. So there's a moment where I think it's 8 or 9 obscure characters just kind of pass by, and Ryan is performing Nigel in that. And he told me, what do you do with Nigel? You don't want him just have him walking by, give him some sort of character motivation for what he's doing. And he decided in that moment, Nigel is walking past Kermit, but he's still bitter about the fact that Kermit replaced him. And he's like, I should be this big movie star. And
I
so
agree.
he's deliberately not making eye contact with Kermit and pretending like he's chewing gum, like he's like too cool for school. And so Nigel kind of walks by just going like, and that's it.
Should we make sure that everybody knows that Nigel was the host of one of the Muppet Show pilot episodes? Because for some reason they thought that he would be better than Kermit, and then they realized that, oh yeah, Kermit is much better. Much better.
He's pretty boring.
You took the words right. I don't think he's boring, but Ryan, you took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah.
I do love Nigel though. I think the idea of Nigel is great. I love the fact that they took this character who was at one point he was the original host of the Muppet Show, really, in a lot of ways, and they kept him around. Like you get to see him like in the like conducting the orchestra in the pit.
Yeah, it's nice that he shows
up in the background. Yeah, it's great.
And Joe, to follow up on your little story there about Muppet fans who just notice one character in the background, that happens to me a lot when I'm watching Sesame Street, because my very favorite Sesame Street character is, believe it or not, Harry Monster.
Oh yeah. Harry, who's made a bit of a comeback in recent years. He's kind of disappeared for a long time, and once Peter Linz was officially announced as the new lead performer for Harry.
Peter and I are very are good friends, and so when I found out that he started doing Harry, I emailed him and I'm like, dude, you're doing my favorite Muppet.
That's great.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, and go ahead.
I was gonna say one of my favorite things about this resurgence of Harry is so now there's like kind of like almost a house band on Sesame Street whenever they have like a band that's playing, and they're all played by like more or less obscure characters, not like fan favorites as much as Harry, but it's Harry Monster, it's Mama Bear, it's Ovahita's in the band. I think it might be Rudy's dad.
Yep, Freddie.
Freddie, yeah, who is hysterical. He's in the band, at least from what I've seen. He's played by John Kennedy, and John Kennedy plays him like very stone-faced. So he'd be like playing like the keyboard, but also just kind of staring into the camera at the same time.
Are you saying that John does the piano playing? Because I think David Rudman does that character.
He would be doing the face for that. So I don't know who does the piano playing for.
Oh, okay.
If it's always David or if it rotates or what.
Okay.
I know it's John Kennedy doing the head.
Okay. I never knew that.
I don't know. But, at least for the band stuff that I've seen. But I just like that it's like, they didn't throw Cookie Monster in the band, and they didn't create a bunch of whatnots for the band. They said, let's pick some characters that will likely not be in these episodes. Louie, Almost Dad Louie is the other one in the band. So that's one I'm forgetting. So yeah, I don't know. I appreciate that. There's something fun about that for us old timers.
Yeah, I like that.
There was one episode of Sesame Street, one of my very favorites. It started with I know this talk isn't about Sesame Street, but since you brought up excitement over seeing old school
it's all
Muppets,
connected.
Yeah, pretty much. I think Big Bird kind of starts walking around the street, singing a song and saying hello to everyone, and there's Harry in the background, and I'm watching that, and my dog was right there, and I'm like, Harry! And my dog's like, what is your problem, dude?
Did you explain it to him?
Well, she just kind of looked at me funny, and she kind of looked at me funny, and I said, that's my very favorite Muppet. She's like, don't care, going back to sleep.
Like, is there a treat involved?
Yeah.
No, I'm done. I don't care.
Well, hey, I'm sorry to run, but I actually have to get going. But feel free to continue this conversation without me.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. Thank you for joining us, Ryan.
Yeah. Thanks for inviting us.
No problem.
Right.
One final question: if the Muppet Show was to be rebooted the way that it was, are there any celebrities that you would love to see on it?
Oh, is this a final question for both of us?
Yeah. I mean, Ryan, if you got to go, that's fine.
Well, why don't you answer the question real quick?
I know. Now I'm thinking this. I feel like this question comes up a lot, and it's so hard to decide because there's so many. Do you have an answer, Joe?
Yes. So there are certain comedians out there who are not like the most famous. It's because it's easy to say like Bill Murray or Tom Hanks or Beyonce or whatever. But there's certain comedians out there that like I would love to see what like Jason Mantzoukas could do on the Muppet Show. I would love to see what John Mulaney could do on the Muppet Show. Like these guys are so funny and they're so sharp. And I would love to see them kind of come in and like, talking from a behind the scenes standpoint, like really challenge the Muppets to be like on their toes and off script with these guys who are really gonna, ad lib a lot. I think that'll be great. And also, like, on the flip side, if they were to bring back the Muppet Show, really have like a lot of guests coming and going, I would love to see them bring back some guests that were on the original Muppet Show.
Okay,
Like,
yeah, that
get
would be
Elton John
cool.
back on there. Yeah, see what Steve Martin's up to. Like, that would be super fun.
This one comes up a lot, but I would love to see Weird Al Yankovic.
Oh yeah.
That would be funny.
He was in one episode of Muppet Magazine, I think. I mean, one issue, but he really hasn't worked with the Muppets. So yeah, that would be great.
He about I think a year ago maybe there was actually I think it was less than a year ago. It was just after the pandemic started. There was a video that went out. It was something Pride related, and it was a bunch of celebrities and they were all singing songs and doing bits or speaking to the camera or whatever, and it ended with Rainbow Connection, and each celebrity sang a little bit. Kermit is in there, Paul Williams is in there, and Weird Al Yankovic is one of the many celebrities who sings, sings a line. So that's a bit of a tiny little connection that they had, but they weren't even in the same room.
Right.
Hardly counts.
I don't know.
Well, when I was 11, my friends and we did our own little. I was like puppeteering my own little characters. Like, well, I would imitate them as Kermit, Fozzie, all them, and I would do the Muppet Show with my friends as guests.
That's fun.
Yeah, and they would just like we'd sing and have a ball. Zoe, Ben, Ryan, Maggie, and actually link in the description for Maggie's new single "Sleep Forever" if anyone is interested.
So your answer is if you're going to have new celebrities on a new Muppet Show, it would just be you and your friends.
Well, to be honest, if they were to reboot the Muppet Show as it is, I wouldn't mind seeing people like Backstreet Boys and a Canadian band called Mariana's Trench. That's pretty good. They're from Vancouver. My friend Rachel loves them, loves Simple Plan, All Time Low. Leah Michelle, and Justin Timberlake. I'd love to see them on the Muppet Show. God, there's Nate Cordry, who's a correspondent on the Daily Show. I'd like to see him. Yeah, I think that they would work very well with the Muppets. Yeah. And I still remember Maggie and Ben doing a little version of a song that was popular at the time. It kind of went something like, "You're a jerk, I know. You're a jerk, I know. You're a jerk, I know." Something like that. And we all my friends really kind of got into it.
Cool. I don't know that one. I can't sing along. I'm sorry.
I'll put a link in the corner of the video of the original song, not of Maggie and Ben doing it. I probably have video of it somewhere. I'll see if I can dig that out.
Terrific.
That'll be on SoundCloud later.
Yeah. Well, Joe, Ryan, thank you guys so much for joining me for a Nostalgia Talk bonus.
Of course. It was super fun.
Talking about Muppets.
Well, I really enjoyed talking to you guys after all these years of reading your site, finally getting the chance to meet you guys. It's been amazing. I've been looking forward to this ever since we started talking about it. We'd have people come over to the house and I'd be like, I'm going to be talking to the guys who run my favorite Muppet fan blog. And if anyone is interested in reading their site, I'll put a link in the description for that as well.
Terrific. Cool. Thank you for that.
Yeah. We also have 2 podcasts of our own, so you can seek those out.
All right. Well, I'll promote them for you.
Thanks.
Promote them. Tell all your friends.
And to the listeners.
Then tell your friends to tell their friends. and then somehow we'll get to Leo Sayer.
Oh, God. And for the listeners, stay tuned because the next Nostalgia Talk I have coming up features from another show that just was recently added on Disney Plus, from Dinosaurs, Stuart Pankin.
Ooh, I love Stuart Pankin.
That's a good guest. Have you ever met him?
Never met him, but I'm a fan.
Well, I'll tell him hi for you.
Tell him I said hi. Thank you.
So stay tuned. Peace.